in a Channel 1. It's been a long time since we are so far left, but as I may remember, don't watch what the next man do. Let everything that you do be alright. And together.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We'll see if we got Steve Bloom on the line. Do we have you, Steve?
That's me.
Oh, glad to have you. I must have got a typo in your phone number there, but glad to have you here. CelebStoner Entertainment Report from CelebStoner.com. And been a while since we talked. We're getting ready for the Global March coming up tomorrow. Are you getting ready for that as well?
Yeah, definitely. In New York, where the event started many, many years ago, 1971, the original Smoking and Pot Parade began here and turned into the Global Marijuana March about 10, 15 years ago. So I plan to be there. I'll be performing with David Peel and the Lower East Side. I like singing his band.
That's excellent. All right. And as far as the CelebStoner Entertainment Report goes, there's a few stories that I had my eye on. One that I was going to try to get into today's news, but didn't have the time. And it's right there in your backyard. New York Jets, couple of new players from my Stoner League, huh?
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, I mean, one of the guys you might know, a former Oregon player.
Right.
Yeah. So there were actually two guys who were not really, they were picked up by the Jets in the off season, but they're not, real, team players. They had never played for the Jets yet. But they were arrested. Cliff Harris and Claude Davis. Cliff Harris used to play at Oregon, and he was actually kicked off the team out there. So you probably remember that guy. He's a cornerback.
If I remember correctly, Cliff Harris.
The Jets picked him up, and they dumped him real quick. Jets have a new general manager. I guess he's not going to take this stuff, and he just let the guy go real quickly. Although they probably could have used him since they don't have Darrelle Revis anymore.
Yeah, and if I remember, Cliff Harris was one of the guys that got busted on I-5 speeding, and the cops pulled them over. Him and a couple other guys from the Oregon team pulled them over, said they were speeding, could smell marijuana in the car, and asked them if they had any marijuana. And I think it was Harris that replied, "No, we smoked it all."
That's right. That's the guy.
Oh, my God.
He's definitely one of our guys, but he keeps on getting in trouble. He is now, him and his buddy who both got arrested, make that 34 NFL players have been arrested for marijuana or other drugs since 2008.
Wow.
So it's by far the most athletes arrested for drugs and marijuana in particular are football players, whether it's, NFL or college. They exceed all other athletes by far.
Yeah, absolutely. Another big news story as far as celebrities goes was just this past Tuesday, Willie Nelson turned 80. I sure hope he kicks that marijuana addiction before it ruins his life.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah, well, good for Willie. You think about people like Willie Nelson. There's very few performers at that age who tour and travel to the extent that he does. I can only think of maybe Tony Bennett, who doesn't really travel like Willie, but is still out there performing. I think Tony Bennett's 87 or something. Willie's 80, and he's just a force of nature. He's pretty much on and off about every 3 weeks. He goes and tours for 3 weeks and then goes to Hawaii and just chills out and gets his energy back and then gets back out on the road. And that's what you'll see this summer as Willie keeps chugging around. But I'll tell you, people should catch him just in case Willie starts to slow down.
Yeah,
just in case.
I got a chance to see Willie a couple years ago and stand off the side of the stage and watch him do his thing, and it was just an amazing experience. I'll never forget it. It was just wonderful.
He just rolls so many songs too. He's written so many, and of course he pays tribute to so many other songwriters. And you sit there during a show, and he must go through 60, 70 songs. And plus, Willie Nelson is an amazing guitar player. Everybody thinks about his songs and his singing and who he is and what he stands for and his marijuana advocacy. The guy can play. That old guitar he's got with the hole in it, unbelievable. That guy is such a great picker.
Yeah. A lot of people completely underestimate Willie Nelson's musicianship, and when you see him live, you get a taste of it. It's just amazing. All right, let's take a look at some of the stoner movies out there. We got to work with the folks that were doing Cheech and Chong's animated movie, the musical soundtrack, and we debuted a lot of these new tunes. But, of course, there's also the Cheech and Chong animated movie. I wonder if you got a chance to see it and what you thought.
I did see it. It had the opening in, around the country on 4/18, the 2 days before 4/20, and then on 4/20 as well. So So it was a very limited theatrical release, and it was just, only a couple of days, and you had to kind of look around to find it. And sadly, when I went to see the showing on the Thursday before 420, I was the only person in the theater.
Wow.
Where were the now nobody knew. I was curious. I wanted to know where it was, so I went to the Cheech and Chong website and I saw the theaters and I saw where they were playing, and I made a note on my calendar and I said I'm going to go to that movie. But nobody else did that or knew to do that because they didn't advertise it. Nobody knew. Now maybe people came out for the 420 showing at another theater, but besides it not not being anybody in the theater, I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. It's just a pretty it's a little naughty, in the typical Cheech and Chong way of their sense of humor. A lot of farts and poops and this and that, and but it's all their old bits. And anybody who's seen them over the last few years, in their reunion tours, they do all their old routines. Dave's not here, and let's make a dope deal, and the sniffing dogs, and all these different characters. They have dozens of characters, and they break out all these characters in the movie, and it's just a lot of fun, to see it done in an animated way. These guys are sort of so animated to begin with, so I really like it. I mean, I don't think it's really caught on because I don't think people really have seen it, and now you probably have to just go buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, or it might be available on demand on some cable packages. So look for that. But I really like it. It's a really fun movie. So it's wild. It's just a wild cartoon. It's not what you're going to get, for the Shrek crowd. It's really for our crowd, the stoners. But I think the stoners really just want to watch movies at home, unfortunately, and they have to have a lot of publicity to urge them to go to the movie theater. So they need a bit of a budget to advertise. Hey, you got to go. But if you don't know, people are going to sit at home and wait for it to be on TV.
Yeah, that's probably right. I'll look forward to getting that DVD as soon as I can as well. There's another movie you have listed on the CelebStoner.com website, and I'm interested in this one because I'm a reader of Cracked.com, and there's a humor writer out there he's been promoting this book he wrote called John Dies at the End. I didn't know there was going to be a movie of it. Can you tell us about that?
That's a strange movie. It's a movie about it's like a horrorcore movie with a lot of comedy built into it. There's a lot of like exploding heads and guts and these large insects pouring out of people's bodies and stuff. Basically, the idea of this movie is that there's a drug called soy sauce that is infecting the people who take it, and once they take it, they sort of don't last too long and they kind of get obliterated. But the two main characters in the story, John and David, and it's based on a novel by David Wong of the same title, they sort of survive and they can go on this sort of, crazy mission to try and track down what's happening to everybody and how they can kind of stop what's happening based on the drug. So it's an exploitation sort of B-style movie, but it really is sort of a fun ride. I mean, it's a little gross, and it's done by a filmmaker who's very good at these types of films. So, the filmmaker, Don Coscarelli, who did Phantasm and Bubba Hotep and The Beastmaker. So the production values are pretty good for this sort of B-quality movie. It has a feeling of Naked Lunch with all these sort of weird insects all over the place. And what's interesting also is that Paul Giamatti, the Academy Award-nominated actor, plays a character, and he's also a producer. So he got behind this movie. And the other person behind this movie is Jeff Myers, who was the director of The Emperor of Hemp. His son is one of the producers. And that's how I heard about it. Jeff sent me a note when it came out a few months ago saying, hey, you should go catch this in the movie theaters, and I wasn't able to catch it. And then I got a copy of it on Netflix, and, sort of partially from the urging of Jeff to see this movie, and he thought it would be an appropriate movie because of the drug theme, to cover at CelebStoner. So I did, and, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's off the wall, but it's a lot of fun.
All right. We will take a look at that. John Dies at the End when it comes out nearby. Let's turn to the world. Yeah. Turn to the world of music. You have a headline here about Bob Weir. What's going on with Bob Weir, formerly of the Dead, with the Further Show?
Right. Well, Bob took a fall 2 Thursdays ago, I guess a week ago yesterday, at the Capitol Theater run of the Further. Band was playing 7 shows there, and That's up in Port Chester, New York. So it's a little north of New York City. And in the last show, Bob, during the middle of the second set, towards the end of the second set, he started listing over. Now, there's a video to show it. If you go to CelebStoner.com, you'll find the video. And he was just tipping over, and gradually, slowly, almost like in a nod type thing, he tipped over. And I think the Grodies were kind of watching him because they could see him kind of lisping a little bit, during that set. But they went over to him at one point and said, "Hey, you want a chair?" And he said, "No, no, no." So they left him alone, and there he was, sort of like, kind of like leaning on the speaker, and then he went down on his left side. They ran over and picked him up, dusted him off, put him back in a chair, and then, sort of typical Grateful Dead style, they just kept playing. It's like if an athlete goes down on the court, in basketball, you call a timeout, you see if he's okay, and maybe you take a break until he gets off the court. No, not in a Grateful Dead show. They've seen it all, so they've seen. Jerry Garcia go through similar, not they fell down, but, being kind of a little out of it on stage, forgetting words, a little drugged out, they've seen it all. They've seen a lot of their band members die over the years from drugs. So I don't know. They don't stop. They did not stop. The music went on for another 10 minutes, Bob sitting in a chair. Then they took a break. They went off stage. Bob did not come back. The band came back, finished up the show. Phil Lesh, who more or less leads the group, said that Bob's having a little problem tonight, but we're going to keep going. And they finished the set, and then they played another show the next night in Atlantic City, which Bob played at. So it seemed like he was okay, recuperated. But now they announced this week that they had a show scheduled for Napa in California, a festival called the Bottle. I'm trying to figure the name of the festival. It's a really cool festival, the Black Keys and lots of other groups. And they canceled their performance on May 9th there. So that has led people, the rumor mill, to question what's wrong with Bob. Now, Phil Lesh said that he had hurt his shoulder, and maybe they were hinting that he was on some painkillers, and that made him a little groggy, and that hence why he fell. That could be the complete explanation. But a lot of other people in the Deadhead community wonder whether Bob does have a drug problem. I've been told that he doesn't, in terms of anything heavy like heroin, which is being kind of speculated. I've been told by someone in the know that that's not the case. However, we don't know where he is now, whether he's in a rehab or whether he's just getting better. But they have delayed, they postponed a performance, and now they're gearing up for a short kind of swing back east in July, and then they've got some shows, Red Rocks, and some California shows in September and October. It's not a really busy schedule, so I think Bob can probably handle it. But I guess you wonder, maybe sometimes it's hard standing up there at 65 years old on stage for hours. Maybe you do get tired and your legs get a little wobbly. It could happen.
Yeah.
I feel a little wobbly sometimes myself when I'm standing for hours at a concert. So, maybe it's just everybody's reading into it. But there is some suggestions that this is not the first time. Bob's left a couple of shows in the past. He's forgetful of words. So people are speculating that he's got a problem.
Well, that's sad to hear. We'll see how that turns out on our next edition of the CelebStoner Entertainment Report. Steve, before we let you go, any other announcements you need to make or plugs that need to get out there?
I always appreciate you allowing me to do this. But right now, what I'm most excited about is the new CelebStoner. We spent some time retooling the site and rebooting the site in the last couple of months. So I think if people go to the site, they'll see a new look, a nice clean look that was designed by Garrett Overstreet, my buddy from Tulsa Normal, and webmaster. And so, we have a new style. Hope people come back to the site and take a look at it and support CelebStoner. But I just came back from Denver where I saw you. So we were at the expo and the big High Times blowout. Unfortunately, we weren't at Civic Center that day, so we stayed away from the panic. We're in a nice, peaceful environment. But right now, kind of laying low. I may go to Seattle Hemp Fest, and I may see you out there in August.
All right. Well, thanks so much for everything you're doing out there, keeping track of the sports and entertainment, movies, all that stuff. CelebStoner Entertainment Report. We'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks as always. Bye-bye.
All right. When we come back, we'll have time for a radical rant. Project Sam was on Capitol Hill delivering 40,000 signatures to keep marijuana prohibition in place and their profits. We're going to tackle that, tear it apart, poke it with a stick. Be right back.
You cut people, you smoke trees till you get what you need now.